Hey folks, so I guess I'll start off today where I did last week. One of the projects we had was this 65 Mustang for some clients here in town. It was a torque converter swap. It should have really taken half a day. This should have been really easy. But before I get into what I learned and things I did wrong, I want to start with something that's related to safety. Anybody out there using this type of transmission jack? You know, I've had this for a long time. It's one of the cheap ones. It's really, it'll get by. But this pedestal and this little chain right here, it's really small, and it's really not made to do, a lot of production type activities. So long story short, I've got a C4 transmission on here that it's on the pedestal and it's chained down. And this chain goes around and you loop it and you lock it in over here. Well, I had this transmission chained down right by the bell housing. And that's usually where I do in case they come off. Well, I had to make a bell housing change on the C4 transmission. I'm going to get into that. the Ford bell housing fiasco. But before I do, I'm feeling it in my back right now. This thing, when I remove that bell housing, and this is completely my fault, that transmission came down, fell down, and like an idiot, I grabbed it. I grabbed this transmission and I took a transmission bath, but I felt the sting. I've already hurt my back once. So I caught it, and I let it down. Luckily, that's nothing else got hurt but me. So now let's get into the bell housing. So don't do stupid things. Like I'm great at doing stupid things. So yeah. So let's get into Ford bell housings. Now I've already gone through the Ford bell housing fiasco, or what you call Ford C4 bell housing bingo. Well, what I've learned is, like everybody knows about, and I'm not picking on Ford people, I like Fords, I like them all, but they all got their little quirky things. So I get the converter in this C4 into this monster transmission, and I noticed when we pulled the converter up, it had to go quite a ways to pull it up into the flex plate. And if you come over here, what I'm talking about, you Ford people know what I'm talking about, obviously, but you've got to get the converter lined up before you just go hammer away on the bell housing bolts. Studs all have to be lined up. They have 4, and this is a new flex plate to accommodate the smaller diameter converter. Well, I noticed it had to come up a little bit further, but it never really dawned. It didn't really trigger anything to think about something else. So we get this thing fired up. I'm like, yeah, this thing's ready to go, right? So I sit there and I'm letting it build up pressure, and I'm full of fluid, and I've got nothing. Zero, nada, zilch. So I kill it, I pull the coil wire off. I have Trish get in here, and I pull the cooler line. And I pull the cooler line, see if I've got any fluid, if it's building any pressure. I have nothing, dry as a bone, zero. Aha, we've got a problem. Well, let me tell you what it was. Ford not only, of all the things they like to change, not only do they change bolt patterns in older and new small block Fords, but they also like to change the depth. I've just figured that out. It's like the Ford engineers, they'd come in one day and they'd say, "Bob, how's it going?" Pretty good, John. What do you want to change today?" "I don't know, bell housing bolts." "Yeah." Come in the next day and, "How's it going?" "What do you want to change today?" "I don't know. I'd like to fire an order." For really no good reason. I cannot figure it out why they do these things. But if you look, this bell housing is an inch deeper than this older style bell housing. So as you can imagine, you guys know what happened when I pulled that converter up to the flex plate. It pulled the converter out of the pump. So I had to remove this transmission. Of course, when you remove the transmission, you have to remove the header on this car because the headers hug around the transmission. So I got to go through all that again. And it worked. Everything's fine now. But I'll show you folks what we did. So you remember those crappy lines we had? You know, and they were sticking down, and this is what we had. And, you know, this is common, what I find in a lot of these older cars. People did repairs, they did what they had to do. And I understand. But you see how kinked that line is right there? This fluid line right here. You can see, look at that. This thing really wasn't flowing really well. In the trash can she goes. So now we have a set of hard lines, like it should have, going all the way up and then all the way across like they should. They come where you can just use a hydraulic hose, and that's fine because they don't know, this is an aftermarket radiator obviously, so if it were to take it all the way out, you'd have to have the proper fittings. This is going to work just fine for this car. It is 10 times that's on there. So now we got the converter in today, and it's doing everything it's supposed to do. I put a kick down on this car. There was no kick down. I don't know why a lot of people out there with these cars, if you don't hook the kick down on some models, you can burn things up. But we put a low car kick down on this, and I don't know if you can see it right here. On a C4 and a C6, this is your throttle valve for your kick down. Well, we've got that on. We got it up on the carburetor, and I can go ahead and show you folks what we've got. I'll open the hood. I need to clean up that massive little trip hazard fluid over there. So I noticed that, you know, I've been driving this thing and test driving it, and you lay the hammer down and it goes real well, but I can't hear the secondaries open up on the new double block carburetor. I can't hear any of that. And the customers they've done a lot of their own work, and that's cool. I encourage that. But the throttle linkage they hooked up on this thing is, well, the geometry was off, and it's not correct for what they're trying to do. And I'll show you. And I'll show you that in the kick down. So if you've got a C4 or a C6 in a Mustang, a Cougar, a Torino, a truck, you know, hook the kick down up. Because what it's going to do, it's going to upshift really, really fast. And you're going to think this thing is really, really sluggish. Let me wipe up my this here. Oh. So we go in here. This linkage, they had it set up, the bushings were backwards and they had it over here, so it was at a precarious, at like a 45-degree angle. I don't like this. I do not like this. Let me tell you why. And let me tell you why the OEMs went away from mechanical linkage. If this engine breaks a motor mount and you go to get into it, it's going to automatically start pulling. And if that motor mount's broken, it will automatically start pulling here. And it doesn't know. And it will go wide open and stick. That can be extremely dangerous. That's why the OEMs went to a cable operated system long time ago. But you know, so I went adjusting everything, and I haven't cut this cable yet, but I noticed the kickdown wasn't really operating properly, and I couldn't figure what's going on. Well, the problem is it's not going to wide open throttle. When you get into the driver's seat and you put the wood all the way down, it goes about this far, and then you've got another, see all that? It's not happening. So you got an issue with the geometry, the pedal geometry. So what they need to do is put, and I'm going to suggest to them to go ahead and put a low car system on this and do away with that. Otherwise, This little car is running really good. You know, I did not set the wires up. This is not me. So, you know, wasn't my doing. Somebody else did this, but that's okay. They can clean that up. So that's where we're at with the Mustang. C10's ready to go. It's got its full wiring harness installed on the Gale Bone 69 C10. She's got her new awesome sound system. So super excited about that. Machine shop, Mario Matthews, 67 Eleanor Mustang, fastback, 4-speed. This is his 428 Cobra Jet we're building. This is a fact had to do was hone the cylinders on it. It's back, it's been flushed, it's been honed, it is ready to go. And this is going to be my first FE build. I've never done an FE, and I did notice on these FEs, they have a similar rear main. I thought this was pretty interesting. Run the same setup as 383, 440, 400 Hemi. That was pretty neat. Got a new customer in from south of Houston yesterday, Glenn Irvin. What a great guy. I had a ball talking to you yesterday, Glenn. It was a pleasure, you coming up and us visiting and going over this build. Glenn is building a 72 Pontiac Le Mans, and he wants to have this thing set up. The car has got the frame off of it, the body. He found this car in West Texas for 150 bucks. I mean, what? This is a 350 Pontiac. And the idea, I believe what we're going to do is, we don't need to break the bank on this. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with a stock stroke, so we can, you know, he doesn't have to spend money where he doesn't necessarily have to. The ideal thing would be to stroke it, but we're going to stick with a stock stroke and maybe go with what they call a company called 10 Indian. They sell Pontiac aluminum heads. There's some options out there for the Pontiacs. I know my good buddy Larry Parks from One Man Garage. He is my Pontiac guru, and I lean on him a lot for my information about Pontiacs. So Larry, if you're out there, I appreciate your help as always. Glenn, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I'm excited about your build. We're gonna get this thing disassembled and off to the machine shop. And Glenn also has said that a sniper, a Holley sniper, he definitely has to have that. And so we have the new intake over there for it, or he bought a used intake, but it's been repainted and it looks really nice, spreadboard, and it'll have the Holley quadrijet system on it. And I think we're gonna go with a set of RAM exhaust manifolds for Pontiac in that Le Mans. They're not as good as headers, but they're a lot better than the log manifolds. For the Cobra Jet, man, do we have some eye candy here. Super big time eye candy. And by the way, I want to give a big shout out to Wells Racing and my cylinder head guy, David Schweitzer. He is the man. Wells Racing has done a great job for us whenever they need us. I need them to spec a cam. When we need to pick out a compression ratio, they pick the pistons out for me. You know, I can CC and I get pretty close, but Dennis, he nails it every time for me. A big shout out to Dennis Wells in Duncanville, Texas. If you're doing any kind of machine work it doesn't have to be a high performance build, but you know, a machine shop that's been around, got a lot of experience, good at what they do, call Dennis Wells in Duncanville. And I am really excited about getting this Cobra Jet together. We got Craig Jackson's Firebird back in. Oh, and by the way, this customer, we finally got the flywheel bolts in. Now, there's a big difference between flywheel bolts and flex plate bolts. Flex plate bolts are gonna be a lot shorter. Pontiac takes a larger size than the regular Chevrolet. So now I've got the flywheel bolts. I'll lift this thing. It's just on here for space. I'll get the flywheel bolts on, and then this thing's getting ready to be fired up. And that's going in. That is the original engine to a 68 GTO convertible 4-speed car. Craig Jackson finally, his engine. I've got the new valve cover bolts. Will be here. Supposed to be here yesterday. They may already be here. I don't know. I got the new valve cover gaskets, and here's Craig's Pontiac. This is his 69 Firebird. We removed this engine, and it's gone through the whole rebuild process, tests, and now we brought Craig's car back, and it's going to get reinstalled. And Craig's going to get to start riding around with his good buddy Reggie. And Reggie has a really awesome Roadrunner. And these two guys, they do what I wish I could be doing on the weekend. So Craig and Reggie, maybe one of these days I get my Tremec and my Charger, I can go ride around with you guys. Okay, Fred Worthington. If you're watching, buddy, I'll send this video to you. Your big block Chevy's all back together. I just need to, I think I need to get an alternator for it, but it's going on the test skid right after the Pontiac. And this is a 496 with marine duty Edelbrock heads, a roller cam. It ain't gonna run like a 283 now, Fred. You better buckle up, buddy, because this thing here is gonna step it up. And by the way, no 16-year-olds driving this car without adult supervision. I'm serious about that. They will get in trouble. So, pretty much on the Plymouth, John Bell. If you're watching, John, you wanted pictures, I'll send you some pictures, and I'll also, you can reference the video. Here's your new Pertronics distributor. I've got to kind of route the wires a little bit more. I just kind of stopped where I was at. I did order the new engine wiring harness from Tommy White at Parts Hound LLC or partshound.com. All this will be replaced now. So this is your engine harness here. This is your headlight harness. You know, John said he really not worried about that. Fine with me, but this really needs to be replaced. So we'll replace the harness and clean this wiring up and get John closer to being ready. Clean this mess up. So Mopar people, I'm obviously a Mopar guy, so I'm gonna pick on Mopar people for a little bit. When you're wiring, you have wiring issues, charging issues on your Mopar. Don't go get your Chevy buddy over here to figure it out, and because he's gonna sit there and say, which Chevrolet, it's not a Chevrolet. They are different. If you have a Ford and you get your Mopar buddy over there, now, hold on. You can burn stuff down real quick. So, the Achilles heel on a Mopar is the wiring harness. The older Mopars, and I hate this, they run all the amperage. They ran an ammeter instead of a voltmeter. So all of the amps coming off the alternator, they go back up through the bulkhead, and they go to the what they call an ammeter, and it's got a shunt. That shunt will corrode, and it will short out, and it will burn a car down. They weren't really made, back then they were building them, I don't think they expected them to last 50 years, right? But I can't tell you how many times I get Mopars in here and they change voltage regulators, ballast resistors, alternators, and they never get them to charge, and it's because of the ammeter failure. Anytime I restore a Mopar, I have that ammeter converted to a voltmeter to save heartache. So that's what's going on right now here at Blake's Muscle Car. Been working all weekend long. I can't tell you how many more we've got coming in. I got another inquiry for a 5.0 Mustang in '89. I really don't mess with the '80s stuff as much as possible. You know, I've got my '87 Grand National, and I rely on, you know, my good friend John Bockel and other folks in the Buick community. There's, you know, a lot of things obviously I can do to it, but I always refer to, when it gets into a lot of that stuff, to the experts. You can play with injectors and do things, and you can lean a turbo car out and burn pistons so easy. With the 5.0 stuff, you know, I don't mind doing the engine work. They bring me the engine and doing things, but when it gets into the computer work and where they've done all kind of splices and things like this, I want nothing to do with it. So that's what's going on today, folks. Again, I hope y'all listened to what I said about the transmission jack. I'm going to go take some muscle relaxers because my back is stinging, and I hope everybody has a great day.